modify the query we built in 20, and we're going to add a few fields, and we're going to show all the employees instead of just a few certain ones. So I'm going to start by adding the fields that we want to see, and this is not really adding. The star has already shown this, so this is actually kind of eliminating a couple of, or eliminating one field. But I do want to show these two, and those are both going to be A. Okay, and then we said we wanted to show all the employees. So if we start with employee ID 2, we're only going to find employees that work under employee 2. So we want to find all the employees that work under, we want to have all the employees, so we need to find someone that is a manager, either directly or indirectly above everybody, and that would be employee ID 1, or we can say manager ID equals or is null. Okay, so if we run this now, we get a list of employee IDs and their name, but nothing else. So what we also want is another column called managers, where we say who is the manager of this person and the whole chain of managers above that person. So for Megan, we want to see Michael North printed here. For, I believe, Bella Tucker, we want to see Megan Berry, Michael North, and so on. And we want this for all the employees here, so we get that chain of managers that are above them. We also want to know how many managers do they have above them, or how low down are they in the hierarchy, I guess would be another way of viewing it. But that's really how many iterations have we through. So there's a few tips about how to create these two fields. So I'm going to have them move down the from there first, but then we know we need a new field called managers. So I have the name at least, and then another one we want to know. And the other field we want to have is number of managers. In number of managers, this is saying that we're initially going to just set it to 0. So now we just set it to 0. That's all I need to do there. So essentially what I'm doing here is if I'm running, well, I need to set this to something too. So I'm going to set this to full name. If I run this now, notice the number of managers is 0. So I have just created a new column with the value 0 in it. Then that is going to be passed into my recursive query, and then I'm going to do something with that 0. But we'll deal with that in a little. The other one I need to create here is the full manager. And I do that by saying array. Then I also need to specify what type of array this is. So I need to give a data type, and in this instance I'm going to be storing the text values, and the manager names happens to be in a varchar format. I also need to have square brackets around there, and then if we run this now, we have a empty array, there's nothing in there, and then we have 0. So at least the declaration seemed to have worked here. So we can move on. And then now what do we do? So we're going to run this initially. This is the initial result set. This is going to be passed into our recursive query. And then what do we do here? Well, we're going to say, okay, the manager ID in the employee table should be equal to the employee ID in this table, this result set. So here's employee ID 1. So now we're going to look in the manager ID in the full table. We're going to look for the employee ID 1. So we get those 4 people, the employee 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe it was. We're going to get those in the second result set. So now we're going to have 4 new rows, but we want to have that Michael North name show up in this array somehow. So what we need to do is we need to say managers, and then we need to concatenate that with the name of the manager above them. And remember that the manager ID that I was looking at in the employee table, so the name I want to be putting in this list right now, when I'm getting down here and I found these other 4 people, is Michael North. So I need to be pulling from subordinates. I need to pull from B. So this should say B, not A. So right now I have an empty list, and then I concatenate the full name from the prior results, which is, in this instance, is Michael North. And then I'm going to get an error message here. So let's go ahead and run this and see what that is. It says each uniquery must have the same number of columns. Well, it's because I'm missing a column. It's simply because I have this number of manager field that doesn't have a corresponding field in the other table. But remember, when I ran this, I can pass in a result set with subordinates here, and that has a field called number of managers that has the value 0 in it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy that field, that name. So now I have that there, but now I'm just displaying 0, and I really want to be displaying 1 at this level. So all I need to do here is say 0 plus 1. Now of course that becomes 1 now, and then next iteration when the result set here gets passed in, now I'm going to be passing in a 1, and then I'm adding a 1, so now I'm going to get a 2 in the second iteration. So this is going to do exactly what it is we wanted to do. And I don't need to name this anything because it just stacks whatever this is on top of what was in the previous iteration. Okay, let's go ahead and run this. And I'm getting an error message. There's something wrong with my syntax around that plus sign there. Oh, I put it to the right of the from employees. I can't do that. I'm gonna have to move that inside the select list. This is where it should go. And this is why I should have from on a separate row like this. All right, now we're working much better. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens now. And now I got some results actually. So I notice here I have Michael Norton, comma, Megan Berry. So that's looking pretty good. And then I have the number of levels here. I got 1, 2, and it kind of keeps incrementing as I go down. However, I think I want a little space in there, so I'm going to add a little space. So to do that, I'm going to have to do another concatenation space in here. So I'm just going to do single quotation mark, single quotation mark. So when in Postgres you try to define a string, then you do single quotation. And then I need to concatenate this to full name here. And here I'm going to get an error message. See what it's telling me here. Malformed literal. It doesn't like my literal here for some reason. So how about we try to concatenate these two separately and then see what happens. And now it's saying we can't concatenate something that's a varchar or character to text. So then I'm gonna have to set this. Actually, let's see if we can set this to text. Maybe that works. Otherwise, I can cast my concatenation down below there to varchar. Yeah, that worked good. So now I have a little space in there. So if we look at this now, I can now look at this row and say, okay, oh, this is Bella Tucker. Her managers are Michael North and Megan Berry. And there's 2 managers essentially above them. And every single employee we can get this information from. And if we have many more levels, I will just be getting more of names, and this will just keep incrementing. And it will just keep running till there's no more results being displayed.